Hold on. We're going to get this sound. I don't know what's going on. We're going to remove that. Let's try to re-add it. Hey, y'all. It's your legal bestie, attorney Symone, and I am live from New York. I am here live from the Diddy trial, giving you another breakdown once again today. Oh, I see what happened. All right. We're going to get started. As you guys come on in, I'm going to play this little video for you. Oh, I see what I did. Hold on. Okay, we're going to play this little recap for you. This one should do it. Here we go. It should do. Ooh. Let's see if we get the sound on this version. Oops, let's see. I think it's because, and my apologies, guys. Let's see if this sound works. Nope, that one's the video. Hold on. We got it. I think it was because, oh, you know what? I'll just show it to you guys from my Instagram. I think it was because my Insta. So we're gonna start with the recap of RICO, right? And then we're gonna go into the facts for. Oh, I see. Yep, there ain't no sound. Okay, let me see it.
Many people are asking,
Got it.
The RICO? I'm your legal bestie, attorney Symone.
There we go. Now we got it. Okay. Now I got it, and I can show it to you guys. Sorry about this. My apologies. Come on in. I'm your legal bestie. So I was here earlier today, Earlier today, I went live straight from the courthouse, y'all, because it was some mess. It was some mess going on earlier today. But I'm going to make sure that we start from the beginning of the day, not just where we were before, so that I can give you a recap from beginning to end. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Just give me a quick second as we're getting this part started. Apologies, since I'm traveling, it's just made it a little bit more challenging. Here we go. So we're going to start with this. And there we are. All right. So we're going to start with this little recap. Here we go.
I'm your legal bestie, attorney Symone. I break down celebrity cases on social media. Here's what has to be shown. Number one, that there's an enterprise. Number two, that there's an agreement within the enterprise to operate for a common goal, and that there's a pattern of racketeering activity. First, we know there's an enterprise. It's literally called Sean Combs Enterprises. But the question is, are they agreeing to commit crimes? Secondly, the agreed upon goal. The prosecution is trying to show that these things were done at Diddy's instruction or with Diddy's consent in order to keep Diddy happy. That is a sufficient agreed upon goal for the enterprise. And third, and this is the part that most people are like, what the hey, we haven't seen anything here, is the pattern of racketeering activity. All they have to do is show 2 of these 8, from kidnapping, arson, bribery, tampering with a witness, forced labor, trafficking, transporting prostitutes across state lines, and possession with intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics or controlled substances. Here are some of the offenses the prosecution has already provided evidence of. Number 1, bribery. That was on day 1. The hotel worker stated that Diddy offered him money to make this go away. Now, he didn't take it, but that doesn't matter. Bribery is the ask. It has nothing to do with the taking. Furthermore, the hotel actually did accept $100,000 to make the tape go away, so that's sufficient proof of bribery. Number 2, tampering with a witness. When they paid off the hotel workers and told them not to speak, that was tampering with witnesses. Those were witnesses that could have confirmed the abuse. In addition, this was done for the purpose of protecting Diddy's brand. If that video had gotten out in 2016, he would have been dropped by all the different brands and all his sponsorships. So that's 2 right there. Bribery, tampering with witness. The transportation of prostitutes across state lines. Now, prostitution's super easy to prove. All they have to show is that it took place in 2 different states. 2 male hookers have already taken the stand and talked about the various cities where they were paid to have sex with Cassie. There's also been evidence presented of distribution of narcotics and controlled substances. Different assistants of Diddy talked about being instructed to obtain or even to pick up controlled substances for Diddy. In fact, one of them actually testified under immunity. So far there's been evidence of distribution of narcotics, tampering with witnesses, bribery, and prostitution across state lines. Now, what we still haven't seen proof of yet is the kidnapping charge. We are still yet to see info on, but we've seen a bit about forced labor. What we're likely going to see in the future is testimony that musicians were encouraged to take drugs in order to be able to stay up late and work all night. There's also been some proof of arson, although we're expecting to see something more concrete that might pin Diddy down for that arson. And of course, there is trafficking allegations. Now, RICO can be proven without proof of any sex trafficking. Let me know your questions down below. I'm your legal bestie, attorney Symone. Follow me on YouTube at Girl, Is That Legal?
All right, guys. Okay, that's the recap. That is the recap. That's the breakdown of RICO. So we got all that. Y'all let me know. Let's hit that like. Let us know. Yes, absolutely join. Yeah, no, it's live. This is live. People are asking. So I was in trial. I was in the courtroom earlier today. That's why my background looks different, because I'm actually here in New York. Thank God to my girl Rashida, who has let me stay at her place as I've been breaking this down, y'all. Today has just been a mess, okay? Somebody said, Symone, I got scared. No, I'm here, y'all. We're gonna do a recap. Now, first of all, if you got your glide, I got my Astro. Here we go. I got my Astro Glide here. Hit your Astro Glide. Remember, we don't have bells over here. We've got Astro Glide, okay? When something interesting happens, we Astro Glide it up, okay? We Astro Glide it up. That's what we're going to do over here, okay? Oh, thank you so much. Somebody said, I'm surprised they didn't call Bentley, Mr. Bentley, or Audrey O'Day. There's something up with Audrey, but with Mr. Bentley, I think they didn't call him because the relevant time period starts in 2009. And I believe that he left around that time. He started much earlier, but he left around that time. So this one, yep, get your little glide, get your Astro Glide ready, okay? We're going to do a recap of today. And I have to say, today was fairly uneventful, aside from the big M word, okay? The mistrial. Put your questions in the chat. Put your questions in the chat so that I can answer them. Oh, Stephanie Alexander became a member. Thank you, Steph. I know she's my friend in real life too. Thank you so much for sharing that. Listen, guys, you definitely want to become a member. There's going to be more lives where I'm going to be, I already like telling my business. I'll be telling my business, but I'll also be doing more live impromptu breakdowns. So please do join and become a member. This travel and all this stuff is expensive, y'all. So I appreciate it. And as well as the cash apps, there's my cash app there, Miss Redwine. And you can also schedule a consultation with me at SymoneRedwine.com. They start at just $159 for 30 minutes. Remember, if you are in a serious accident anywhere in the nation, those consultations are free. Now it has to be serious, okay? It has to be like an auto accident, something like that, a Walmart slip and fall. We'll walk through it. You can contact me there. And also, I am starting my law school coaching class, the first class of the summer. It meets once a week. It's going to start next week. It's law school for grown folks. So if you've ever thought about going back to law school, you'll definitely want to check out my website and you can sign up there, SymoneRedwine.com. All right. So today, like I said, today was a sleeper to the point where I was really like, do I ever want to bother, right? Because I really miss you guys. I started this whole Diddy journey where I would go live from my home office and we would review the tweets and we'd like be on here for hours at a day breaking it down together. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that. But I wanted to be here live and in person as I was today. I'm here in New York so that I could be in the trial, so that I could see all of the things like Diddy's demeanor, like the way that the jury was reacting, and even the jury's facial expression in their faces. So let's start there. So Diddy's demeanor. Diddy is running. He is running that legal team. Now, it's rumored that he's paid, I think he probably pays close to $1 million a month for all those lawyers on his legal team. Imagine, he's got 10 powerhouses on there. And of course, they don't all make the same amount. But he's running it. He is writing those post-it notes and he is, letting them know what he wants, what he doesn't want. Today, there was a motion actually from his team, and this motion is making me very nervous. What they are saying is that the way that the jail works that he's at, they only get access to him until like 6:30, 7 at night. Now it's 7, but before at one point they were talking about it being like 5. They were also saying that after court, the judge started ending court generally at 3:00. Well, they were claiming the time it takes to get him processed and everything, which takes hours, it was really only leaving the lawyers a few hours after court each day to talk with him, get feedback, etc. The reason that made me nervous is because literally when I took the bar exam for, what state was that? I think it was either Texas or New York. One of the questions was about a trial where the judge prevented the defendant from having access to his lawyers over the weekend. It was literally overturned by the Supreme Court of New York, claiming that during a trial, it is critical that you have access to your lawyers so that you have access to help with your defense. So, for example, in this instance, I'm concerned that on appeal, because if he's convicted, when he's convicted, Diddy is going to appeal all of the things. Because at this point, he's going to be looking for a technicality, as we saw today. He's going to be looking for a technicality to get out of this, because the law, I just don't see how the law is going to get him out of this. So to that end, I was nervous when I heard like, they keep arguing that they don't have enough access to him. Now the judge is trying to do his best, but and this is generally like a normal thing, but I think the problem is he's got 10 lawyers. It's such a big case, and all 10 of them want feedback every day. Like Diddy will write down questions to them and hand it to them. That's how come some of these questions, they be irrelevant, outlandish, and they just be petty. He loves mic drop moments. If you watch my Instagram, which is attorney Symone Red Wine yesterday, you saw that the last thing he had his lawyers ask Capricorn Clark on the stand was, they asked her, you told Cassie that she needs to just leave Diddy and find a new man. And she said, yes. And isn't it true? Her response was, well, who should I date? Jay-Z's taken. And she goes, yes. And he said, no further questions. Like, it really didn't have anything to do with anything that was being discussed at that point. So that's just one example of one of the different ways in which Diddy will be like, no, I want you to ask this. I want you to mic drop on this. So anyway, the judge said he's going to work on getting them more access to Diddy. So hopefully we can set that issue to the side. Now, yes, this is the same team that rushed the case to trial. Now, they rushed it to trial, number one, because Diddy couldn't make bail and they wanted to help him get out as soon as possible. But number two, part of that strategy is to bluff. They felt like they're bluffing the prosecutor. They felt like this is going to force the prosecution to get all of their witnesses aligned, all their evidence aligned, all of the things. And as far as the jury, so that was Diddy. So, and Diddy also, when he likes or he feels like his attorneys are really like tearing somebody up on cross, he'll nod. He'll nod. He's a nodder. He nods when it's like so obvious. He nods for everything. But only if he likes it. Now, this afternoon, attorney Xavier Donaldson was cross-examining the gay boy, Cassie's gay homeboy. Child, he was so much fun. And I don't think Diddy was impressed, because Diddy at that point turned his entire body to look at that man like this is the front of the courtroom, right? Let's say this is the front. Then Xavier was over here to the right at a podium. Diddy's whole body at points were turned this way, almost to be like, and what is you doing? And you see me. You know what I'm saying? Because like if he's standing over there, literally and facing the court, Diddy turned his whole body, in other words, to give him like complete and total disapproval of how it was going. I'll elaborate on that shortly. Now, the jury. This is the most diverse jury I've ever seen. So it's a total of 18 people over there, because you've got the 12 jurors plus 4 alternates. My assumption, my guess, so I asked them, I said, does everybody sit in the same place every day? They said, yes, since the trial started. My assumption is that very back row is the alternates, because I've been a juror before. Usually the main jurors sit in the front 2 rows, the alternates and that top row. Well, let me tell you, that top row is got a black lady with like a nice little like curly Spanish wavy. Hit that like as y'all join, y'all. Hit that like and subscribe. Black lady with her Spanish wavy. It's got a black guy who wears a hoodie like every day. He looks like somebody homeboy. He definitely knows hip hop music. Then it's like a bald-headed white man, and it's an older lady. But that's just those are the ones that I think are alternates. For the rest of the people, if I'm correct, basically it's like 4 other black ladies, 3 black guys. One of them look like he African. If he's not African, he's like some type of Caribbean. And then one looked like a homeboy. He got a thick beard, the kind y'all girls like to sit on. I don't really like beards, but that's y'all. And then another one that looks like, he definitely knows who Puffy is, that kind of thing. Now, with this kind of jury, I definitely think, though, part of the challenge the prosecution will have is that the prosecution needs a highly intelligent jury, because there's a lot of stuff that's being kept out because of the way the judge is ruling on objections. Yeah, homie with the hoodie. And as a result, for example, like the fact that Capricorn Clark kept coming back to work for Diddy and continued to ask him to return for years, I think an intelligent person, it don't matter what your education is, college, no college. This woman never went to college, but she was making, at her height, $90K, plus was getting her apartment paid for, her car paid for, her health insurance, all of that stuff. If you have any friends or relatives, right, who are really good at what they do, but they're in an industry where most everybody around them has a degree and they don't, they know how rare that job is and how hard it is to get another one like that. Thank you so much, Joe, for the super chat. Thank you for your coverage. I will address this question too. And they know that. And I think generally, the general public, if you've never had that kind of experience, you're going to be like, what kind of girl we don't really believe she got kidnapped. Like, what kind of girl gets kidnapped but still continues to work for the person? You got to understand the music industry. And I think anyone with good common sense and critical thinking would know that if you leave Diddy on bad terms, he will blackball you from the industry, as he did with her. And then that, can explain why she was still buttering him up, trying to go back to work for him, because she couldn't work for nowhere else and she needed a damn job. Now, Jay asks, thanks for your coverage. How will Mia testify anonymously? Won't the public see her face? So 2 things. Mia is tomorrow, so I'm excited to see how that goes. Now, there's a main courtroom and then there's an overflow courtroom. The first day I was in the main courtroom, that's where you're able to like see all of Diddy's facial expressions. You're sitting behind the family, all of that. But then that's only for the first 14 members of the public and the first 21 of the press. Outside of that, and those are the people that get there like 4 a.m. I ain't got time for that. Outside of that, everyone else, we go to a second room where we're watching it on screens. So number one, I think what they'll do for Mia to testify anonymously is they probably will not show her face on the screen, just her voice. But in the regular courtroom, I don't think that she's anonymous to the world. I'm not sure of it, but what they can do is they can, number one, let her sit and testify all of her words, just don't show her face. But that's on the screen. But that's also less of an issue, again, because it's federal court. And in federal court, there's no cameras anyway. So there's no risk of that. I really think allowing her to proceed anonymously is just meaning her real name isn't being put in the government record. So when she takes the stand, the court reporter is going to take down Mia as my pseudonym, whatever. But the court reporter is going to know at some point, like, who the real person is. So I don't think they're going to like make her wear like how Diddy used to be dressed like Molly the Muslim and sit in a corner and jack off at his little freak off sometimes because he likes it Muslim style with the mask. I don't think they're going to make her do that. They're not going to make her put on a hijab. But what they will likely do is not show her face on the screens that are projected to us in the other room. And I think it'll go like that. And the reason, how did you become a member? Okay, y'all, moderators, definitely help her. You hit the join button. You can hit it from YouTube on the app, and you can also hit it from the desktop. In most instances, it's the app. Thanks for asking. But I also think that I want to make sure you're clear on the reason she is being allowed to proceed anonymously versus the others. So like Thalia Graves couldn't be anonymous. That's because when she filed her lawsuit, she filed it under her name, talking about her civil suit. With this particular woman, when number one, she is accusing and saying that Diddy R-worded her. He put his hand up her skirt. He did some things and he R-worded her. And yet again, she continued to work for him. My understanding is that wasn't her last day. We'll see with the testimony. And so when you make that accusation of R-word, you're more likely to get permission to proceed anonymously because of how traumatic it can be for it to get out that happened to you. And that's for the same reason that in criminal cases, even the news media does not state the name in a criminal case of an R-word victim, unless that victim is okay and lets them know that they want to be outed. So Mia is going to be proceeding anonymously for that reason. Mia is also going to be important, y'all, because she's going to talk about RICO, like how his staff executed or covered up all his bad deeds, how they worked together to do that. But also, she's going to testify to help prove up forced labor. That's why I play that video. That video is going to be kind of my intro. So don't think because you're seeing the video, it's not a live video. That's just my intro. So that we can recap. So Mia is going to talk forced labor. She's going to talk substance distribution, RICO style. She's likely going to talk about how his staff covered up stuff, all that stuff. Any thoughts as to who Mia is? Didn't Nash say, yeah, she was an assistant to Diddy. She worked for him. And I just don't know. I don't know enough names. I don't think it's KK. I don't think it's KK because one of the things that they said was that Mia and it could be though. Man, let me think about it. It could be KK, but I don't know. I kind of doubt that. I doubt that. Because everybody knows KK and KK's name has been used throughout the trial versus for Mia, people have been calling her Mia. So they're distinct people. I don't have no clue who she is. Thank you for the new subscriber. All right. Somebody said it's probably Lorianne Gibson. The only reason I don't think it's Lorianne is because Deontay, who testified today, like he's good friends with Mia and talked about him and Mia being at Cassie's house hanging out and getting in and Diddy jumping on Cassie and then they jumped on him. I don't think Lorianne would have been hanging out with Cassie and Deontay because they're a lot younger. She's also Canadian. Lorianne is Canadian, so I think she's been up in Canada minding her business, living a quiet life. All right. That's true. And Lorianne was not an assistant. All right. So let's just start from the beginning, y'all. So it was basically 3 witnesses. It was a boring, it was pretty much a snooze day for the most part. Now, the first witness was LAPD officer Chris Ignacio. So what Chris testified to was basically the stuff that happened with the burglary at Kid Cudi's house. He testified to the burglary and how that worked. And I kept saying, I was like, why do I keep talking about this damn burglary? What is it like? Burglary is not a RICO offense. Remember, I put them RICO offenses up at the very beginning. I was like, what is this fascination with this doggone burglary? And then I thought about it. It's because it corroborates Capricorn Clark's kidnapping testimony. Because yesterday, Capricorn got up there and was like, Diddy napped me at 5:30 in the morning at Pow Point, talking about put your clothes on. Diddy said, quote, put your clothes on. We about to go find Kitty and kill that in. Those were the words. Put your clothes on. We about to go find Cuddy and kill that in. Because he was upset, of course, with Cuddy dating Cassie. So she then talked about how they get in a car and he forces her to ride with him to Cuddy's house. She talks about how they were there sitting at the house and then Cuddy pulled up, right? Cuddy pulls up, sees him, and then because Cuddy was on the phone talking big, he was like, "You're at my house, man." And then Cuddy was like, "I'm coming up there." So he comes up there, he pulls up, he sees Diddy in the truck, and it dawns on Cuddy like, "Oh hell, I don't want this because ain't no telling they're gonna have weapons or whatever else." So then Cuddy speeds off. When Cuddy speeds off, Diddy takes off after him. What the cop testified to is that as he was speeding down the hill to try and get to the burglarized house, because apparently Cuddy on his way called the cops and was like, "Hey, it was burglary." The cop then sees Diddy's Escalade pass, and the cop said it was suspicious. It was something about it. So he wrote down the license plate. This testimony was poignant because when they ran that plate, it belonged to Bad Boys Enterprises, Bad Boy Records. Let me hear you say, "RICO, shake that jelly. Shake that." That's RICO. So the car wasn't just in Diddy's name. It was in the name of the Enterprise, the vehicle that they used to kidnap old girl, bring her to the premises, and then burglarize that man's house. Now, he is not on trial for burglary. But what it does substantiate is that it substantiates those aspects of Capricorn Clark's testimony, that it was, in fact, Diddy that was over there. Diddy brought her over there, and that he happened to be there at whatever time in the morning. So then the jury's going to have to decide, Do you think she voluntarily went or that she was forced? And I feel like it'll be, some people may say, oh, she went because she wanted to protect her job. That wouldn't be kidnapping. Kidnapping is when you can't leave and you believe if you do so, you will be faced with force or threats. Her voice is a little deep, but that means she's centrally mature. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. So that was very powerful and helpful of his testimony. So then second, that was like the main thing. That now the defense tried to negate him by saying, oh, the defense, were you told in the police call, like when they called and said you needed to come out, were they told that there were guns involved? No. Were you told there was a car chase? No. Did you see a car chase? No. Were you told that there was any kidnapping involved? The detective said no. So their point was that, like, oh, if those things happen, whoever called 911 should have called and reported such serious offenses. I actually think that feeds into the tampering with witness claim, because Cece, I'm calling Capricorn Clark Cece. Cece actually testified that after Diddy saw Cuddy speed off, he kind of calmed down and he told them, listen, you better make sure he don't call the cops or else I'm killing all three of y'all. All three of y'all got to go. And so sure enough, what was testified to by both LAPD and then secondly, the arson investigators that came up there, nobody anywhere dropped Diddy's name. Nobody. All right. So let's go next to the next one was the arson investigator. I talked about him a little bit at lunch if you saw that live. But hit that like, hit that subscribe, y'all. Because, child, let me see. Did Capricorn Clark mention the blowing up of Cuddy's car when she was asked about it? Yeah. No. Oh, good question. No. Regarding Capricorn Clark, they asked her, do you know anything about the arson? Now, remember, the arson was a month after the kidnapping. Kidnapping was December 11th. The arson was January 9th. And she said, Your Honor, I don't know anything about an arson. She said, I didn't know anything about it. Because in my mind, I was really thinking, I was like, surely the prosecution gave immunity to one of the security guards, and one of the security guards or his little brother or his homeboy is going to come and testify that they, put the cocktail in the car, in Kitty's car. But y'all know, I think this is the extent of the arson evidence. I think this is all we got. And let me tell you why. So the arson investigator, then he takes the stand. He testifies that he don't really, he testifies as to, remember, the defense was saying female DNA was found on the bottle. Y'all, it was it Mad Dog 4040? It was so ghetto. It was an old, here we go. It was a old ghetto bottle. That bottle, oh, here we go. Of the bottle that was used in the arson, y'all, it was like Mad Dog 2020. Old English malt liquor. So he gets up there. And the judges at this point is like getting really like sick of all the objections and stuff like that. So they went through like a whole bunch of evidence that they were going to let in at the beginning, right? Now, then we get to this part, and the judge basically at the beginning of trial, when the day was started, tells the prosecution like, hey, y'all got to work on not asking questions that are improper, basically, that elicit improper responses. So they had a whole conversation about this. Thank you again. Thank you, Hibiscus, for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So, oh boy, arson investigator, he gets on the stand. And he's sitting up there and he's talking about the investigation. He talks about, yeah, they said there was female DNA, but he didn't do the testing. He doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know anything about how DNA is tested, la-di-da. In fact, he didn't know anything about that. So he was like, well, here we go. Somebody said they want to see my response to the interview with the Punisher. Oh, it'll be on its way. So he didn't know anything about the DNA and stuff. So they tried to diminish the fact that it was female DNA. But they really weren't able to do, they as in the prosecution, wasn't able to do too much about that because they weren't able to they didn't put on a DNA expert that could have said, hey, listen, this female DNA is dismissive. It's not a big deal because that could be from touch DNA. It could be a female in the lab who touched it. It could have been anyone. But then he gets into the damn fingerprints. He talks about the fingerprints that were collected. So basically, as part of the arson investigation, they took some fingerprints off the house. Well, back when they did the burglary investigation, they had more fingerprints. Now, we know with the burglary, those fingerprints would have belonged to somebody in Diddy's camp because Diddy and his boy went inside the house. So it was expecting that those fingerprints from the burglary would be compared to the arson and perhaps link them. Now, there's no way in hell it would link them to Diddy, but perhaps someone in Diddy's camp, right? Because Diddy doesn't do any of this dirty work. He asks for it to get done, hops on a plane, leaves the country, and then whatever needs to get done gets done. That is Diddy's MO. So the prosecution then asked, all right, so when you tested the fingerprints, what happened? He was like, well, I never tested them. They said, why? He said, they disappeared. They were destroyed. And it wasn't disappeared, right? They didn't just walk away. They were actively destroyed by somebody in the evidence department in August. This happened in January of 12. They were destroyed in August. So then the prosecutor says, was that unusual? And defense, object. Defense was on it. Because defense knew kind of what they were going to try to go get at or insinuate, which was that they disappeared because Diddy made them disappear. So then the prosecution is like, oh, I'll rephrase. Thank you, Anika, for joining. Thank you so much. Says, oh, I'll rephrase. In your 15 years of experience, she was going to say something along the lines of, has it ever happened that the fingerprints have disappeared? The defense, objection, Your Honor, sidebar. They go over to the side, and that was when Diddy's team decided to file for a mistrial. They felt like, look, this morning the judge already warned you. The judge told you quit asking questions that lead towards improper information. Now, technically, you can't do that. When you object, you have to object to the question itself. You can't object to an answer that's never given, but their goal was to prevent a prejudicial answer from being given. In the end, I was so nervous. I didn't think the judge was going to give a mistrial because that's too much work. So far, it's like the government has spent like $25 million to prosecute this case. But here's the thing. When I was thinking about listening to all this arson evidence, I was like, surely y'all have something more concrete out there somewhere. Surely it's going to be a security guard, a former employee, because I kept writing down security guard. They're going to have to call one of his security guards that are going to be able to corroborate some of this criminal-esque RICO stuff, right? So I was like, surely they're going to have somebody last minute, towards the very end of their presentation, who's going to be like, oh, I did the arson, right? Mic drop, boom, we can go on our day. Where's my little gavel? Here you go. I was like, mic drop, that's what we need, right? No, this is it. This is all the arson evidence. And the reason we know that is because when the defense objected to the insinuation that Diddy made the fingerprint stuff go away, it would be permissible. It wouldn't have been a big deal if subsequently the prosecution was going to put on someone who was going to say just that. He could set it up. You're always allowed to set it up for another witness to confirm. That's why one person will be on the stand and may say something like, oh yeah, and Mia was there too, or Mia knew about it. And then the next person you call is Mia so that it reinforces. But as mad as the defense got, I was like, oh shoot, y'all, they ain't got no more arson evidence. This is it. I was like, this is really crazy. And I saw why the defense was so upset, because it did create the impression that oh, Diddy has the ability to make things go away. And here's the thing. The judge told the jury, you have to ignore it. You have to disregard it. You can't consider it. You can't consider the question. You can't consider the answer. And remind yourself that lawyers' questions are not evidence. Lawyers' comments are not evidence. So that got dismissed or whatever. The mistrial was denied. The judge is going to be a little more skeptical to the prosecution side. But as well, it was like, yeah, I get what they're trying with that arson, but y'all let me know in the chat if you think that arson has been proved reasonably. All right, so next up, the next thing that happened, and then that arson investigator, he did his best, but he was kind of like he's like one of those like TV like detectives who's kind of like, I don't know. He knew stuff about arson, but he didn't know nothing else about nothing. He couldn't tell you nothing about the DNA. He couldn't tell you nothing else. If there was a mistrial, the thing is, it has to be retried. Judges don't like granting mistrials because it just means starting all over. You would have to continue sitting there. There's going to have to be a whole new jury pick. Ain't nobody trying to do all that. So that was like the most exciting thing for the morning. Oh, and there was, and the defense is going to appeal, they're going to appeal the failure to grant a mistrial so that if Diddy is ever convicted, that's going to be one of the grounds they're going to use to overturn his conviction. Oh, but speaking of overturning the conviction, before I get into the final witness of the day, y'all, and this was the fun witness, I also want to make sure that, yeah, before we get to the final witness, y'all, look at this. Before we get to that final witness, child. So this happened today. I'll make sure you can see it. I need to make sure that you can see it. Hold on. This happened today. I need to make sure you can see it. Why is this not showing? I don't want to remove this. I want to add it. Hold on. It is, here we are. Okay, I want to make sure you can see this one. Oh, this is related to the Diddy trial. Y'all, this is Larry Hoover. Trump pardoned him today. Not pardoned, he commuted his sentence today. He was the leader of the Gangsta Disciples gang that terrorized Chicago, created the foundational criminal enterprises. And all I'm about to say now, shouts out to my boy, Justin Moore. I went to high school with Justin Moore, and Justin Moore has been trying for years, since the last Trump presidency, to get Larry Hoover's sentence commuted. He's been there for like 30 years. He's got health ailments. He's at the Supermax. It's supposed to be inhumane conditions, all that type stuff. Well, this is relevant because if he could commute, now, mind you, with Larry Hoover, he had certain celebrities behind him. My friend Justin Moore literally went to the White House with Kanye. Kanye was behind encouraging them to commute Larry Hoover's sentence. My point is this: if he's going to commute means he don't have to serve another day. That whatever time he's done is done. It doesn't, pardon means it's as though it never happened. You can get your gun rights back, all of that. That's not going to be the case. He just got it commuted. If he did that for Larry Hoover, y'all don't think he'd do it for Mr. Diddy? That's what makes me nervous. Y'all don't think he'd do it for Diddy? All it takes is enough celebrities behind his ear screaming. I also think it's going to take a few $1 million. So my hope is that if he does that, at least the next administration can get him for bribery. Because if Diddy pays him millions and in turn he takes those millions and pardons him, that is in fact bribery, which is already what Diddy is being charged for right now. One saving grace would be asset forfeiture, that if the feds have Diddy's assets on lock the way that they're supposed to pursuant to the indictment, then Diddy should not be able to get any large type of lump sum to pay off Trump or anyone else. He can get some money to, yes, I said Diddy will pay $100 million. He would definitely give $100 million. He would give $100 million. He would give a jet, all of that. So I don't know. I don't want to disappoint y'all, but let me get this man off my screen because that just pissed me off. So that was relevant. Now, the final witness for the day, y'all, was Deontay Nash. So it was her homeboy, Deontay. Now, I have to say, I wasn't thrilled about his testimony just before he even started, because my thought was, this is repetitive. Like, can we please get off Cassie? Can we please? I get it. One of the 3 counts is S trafficking. But I think that the prosecution needs to distance themselves from Cassie facts, because otherwise, if a juror does not believe she's trafficked, then if all the other crimes are tied to her, there's a chance that they're going to get a not guilty, that juror is not going to feel comfortable. You see what I'm saying? Convicting him of other stuff. So get off Cassie. Show me the evidence that links him to the other offenses that ain't got nothing to do with her coercion, or any of that. So Deontay got up there. He was her stylist. He was her boo. And he was a gay. So he was a gay guy. He's a gay lady. He's a guy though. And he was so dynamic and entertaining at the same time. So he started off, but they said, "Do you want to be here?" He said, "Absolutely not." They were like, "You don't." He was like, "I'm here because I had to be." Nope. No, absolutely not. He was very clear. Excuse me. Excuse me. Got it. Then he goes on to, he said, "I absolutely do not." Then he went on to talk about how he's very close to Cassie, that they were friends. He worked as her stylist from 2009 to 2018 and saw how she interacted with Diddy. She also said that he would call, that Diddy would call her names. He reiterated also observing certain beatings. The point of his testimony is that he testified that Cassie specifically communicated to him that she did not want to do freak-offs, FOs. And he talked about a time at her 29th birthday when she absolutely didn't want to do it. He pulled her away from her friends. He was like, "Can't you do this one thing for me?" And made her go and do that on her own birthday. Like, leave the karaoke, leave the rest of the friends, go to the hotel and do that. And she specifically told him, "I don't want to do that. He's making me leave to go do a freak-off." And Deontay said that was the first time he even heard her use that term. So that's to go to the coercion. In addition, and what I found sad, fascinating, and all of the above interesting, he also talked about the fact that Combs would threaten to get Cassie's parents fired from their jobs. Y'all, get her parents fired from their jobs. Y'all, that is coercion. And I know the defense will be like, "Oh, but that's not related to RICO. That's coercion related to DV, related to their toxic relationship." The problem is he would be able to do that because of his stance within his business, because of the strength of his business. And it's blackmail. It is blackmail, and it's a component of the trafficking to say, "You need to stay with me. You can't leave me. You need to have sex, do all the stuff that I want you to do, or I'm going to get your parents fired." And we already know, like, her dad, we haven't even seen her dad really. I feel like her dad is probably a very meek, low-key, quiet person because we ain't heard nothing from him. In addition, he said Deontay testified that he also heard Diddy threaten to release her tapes or give them to her parents, like release them to her parents, like email them to her parents. He also threatened to withhold her music from being released. Well, we saw that. She had one mixtape, y'all, in the 10 years. One album, one mixtape in the 10 years. And that comes, would get irate and do all of this. Now, speaking of her parents, interestingly, with the arson investigation, the arson investigator testified that the investigation isn't closed. It's stagnant because there's no new evidence. He testified that he was given a number of witnesses that he could call, people to call. He was told to call Cassie, Capricorn Clark, even Cassie's brother called and was contacted, or Cassie's brother, called the investigator back and cussed the investigator out. Told him, "Stop calling my effing sister. Quit calling her." And Capricorn Clark, when she was asked, she just about the arson by the investigator, he said she just hung up in his face. She wouldn't answer nothing. So that also goes to tampering with witnesses, because Diddy told Cassie and told Cece, "Look, if my name is tied to this, if the cops put me in this, I'm killing all y'all." So they said, "Oh no, they're not about to risk it." So he did all this testimony. So let me fast forward to the cross-examination. So it was pretty direct. He talked about also, Nash talked about whooping up on Diddy one time because he was just whooping on Cassie real, real bad. So And this was at Cassie's house. So he jumped on Diddy's back, and so did Mia. Mia jumped on him too. And they just went to town on him, baby. Went to town on him as best as they could. Because he hit Cassie really, really bad to where she was bleeding and all this type of stuff. Well, of course, cross-examination. On cross-examination, they tried to get into the fact that, Diddy poured so much money into her career. Y'all, here's the part. Check this out. The Diddy poured all this money into her career, resources, her mixtape, whatever. Yo, why did Deontay refer to her mixtape as that little mixtape? Like, he was so, expressive. He was like, yeah, that little mixtape. In other words, he was just throwing it, implying he just did something for Cassie to shut her up. It wasn't nothing substantive. Then they really got into the cross-examination, y'all. He talked about, he was asked about whether or not, Cassie wanted to, have sex with other guys. He testified, no, she really didn't. Y'all, the chemistry between Xavier Donaldson, who is Diddy's, that's the African-American male that's on the defense. Hit that like, y'all, and hit the subscribe as you're joining. The chemistry between Xavier, the black lawyer for Diddy, and Deontay on cross, y'all. It was so tense to the point where every day we've been leaving around 3:00. He's been telling the jury, we'll let you out at 3. That also gives Diddy and his legal team more time to work with their client. Child, at 2:30, not 2:30, maybe at 2:00, the judge asked Donaldson, how much time do you think you need? And he said, okay, yeah, I'll be able to finish up today. The prosecution didn't take much time with him at all. So the judge was like, cool, I'm going to tell the jury we're going to stay past 3 just to get this finished, but that for sure they can leave by 4. Donaldson kept asking the most mundane question. He would ask the same question 50, 11 times. You cannot do that to a sassy gay. That sassy gay is not about to play with you. Already don't like you. So, for example, at one point, so yesterday, when Cece was on the stand, Mark Agnifilo had asked, y'all know I don't know how to say the name. Mark had asked her, you call him Puff. Can we refer to him as Puff? She was like, sure. The judge was like, no, he's Mr. Combs. So she was like, okay, whatever the judge says. So, the judge is formal. Well, today, when Xavier did his cross, he kept referring to Cassie as Cassie, not Miss Ventura, Cassie. So at one point, Deontay gets sick of it because he's been her best friend for forever. He gets sick of it and he goes, Mrs. Fine. Mrs. Fine. And so this Xavier's like, because she's married to Alex Fine. So Mrs. Fine, did Mrs. Fine, and he would, they would antagonize each other like that. I was like, oh, Lord. And then he would, ask, the most basic, dumbest of questions to him. At one point, he asked him, the guy said he was a stylist. And he asked him, so what is a stylist? And he was like, what? He was like, what is a stylist? Explain to the jury what a stylist is. Well, there is a hairstylist, a clothes stylist. But in the end, they took a break. And the judge was like, yo, we need to speed this up. I promised them that we would be done by 4. And he was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that because of this witness. And the prosecution was like, the witness wasn't doing any of that on direct with us. And he doesn't want to be here. The only reason you're having that is because you keep asking mundane questions and asking the same question over and over and over again. And the prosecution was like, some of these questions don't need to be asked. The judge goes, asking what a stylist is, and everyone busted out laughing. Yo, it sounded ridiculous. So then, and then the other thing about the presentation with Xavier, it was he would be setting up a line of questioning, and I'm used to set up, hit, hit as in get to the point. He would set up, and then no point would be made. I think what was happening is he was trying to corner Deontay into a certain type of statement that would have been powerful, and Deontay wasn't budging. So he would just have to switch to another topic. He had all this whole line of questioning about, did he pay for her video? Did he pay for her this, her that, or third? So, and then he was trying to set it up, I guess, to imply that Diddy was truly investing in her. And then here come Deontay talking about, oh, that little mixtape. In other words, the mixtape didn't make any money. That mixtape was put out for free. And he was like, nobody got paid for working on that mixtape. So that defeated that purpose. He even Deontay was trying to be like, you're familiar. There was the Bad Boy reunion tour, right? Y'all remember that in 2016? He was like, yes. And Cassie performed, and he goes, what? You mean that little? He said, you mean that little 2 minute set they gave her, that little 2 minute song? Apparently, they let her do only 2 minutes. He was like, well, Cassie performed at the Bad Boy reunion. He goes, no, she didn't. She did not tour. There was one show, and he let her perform her little 2 minute set at one show. And I was sitting next to some other lawyers, like homegirl Shanna Lloyd, who's on Good Morning America. And we were like, oh my God, you don't ever ask a question you don't know the answer to, including at one point, he was like setting up, asking all these questions about substances, right? And had asked him, he was like, yeah, you did substances. Which ones did you do with Diddy? Blah, blah, blah. Then he says to him, now, you've never done anything illegal at the instruction of Diddy, correct? And he was like, no. He was like, yes, I have. He was like, you've done something illegal at the instruction of Diddy? He was like, yes. Child, Xavier ran from that question so quick. Xavier ran from that question. He did not ask, what was it? He didn't ask anything. I said, oh, Lord. Then I don't know who Rob Holiday is, y'all. Somebody has to tell me in the chat, but he's some type of music producer. And when Xavier was trying to like line up the fact that Diddy paid money for these top-notch producers and artists to work with her, to work with Cassie, one of them was Rob Holiday. He was like, Rob Holiday. He's like, and Diddy even paid for Rob Holiday, right? He was like, yeah. And, Rob Holiday is a top producer. He was like, mm-mm. He's like, he's not a top producer. He was like, no. He was like, why isn't he a top producer? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? He was like, is he whack? Is he low budget? Is he not good? He goes, all of the above. Oh, then we go on break, right? Because he's about to take a break. He kept saying, Your Honor, can I take a break? They take a break, come back from the break. Xavier says to Deontay, he says, ooh, nice coat, because Deontay didn't have on a coat before. It's cold in there. He put the coat on during the break. He said, nice coat. What size is it? Why would you ask that? It's not time to make small talk. Like, what? At this point, it's like 3:30. The jury is used to leaving at 3. So it's late. It's after. This is not time to be trying to make friends with people who wish they could have left 30 minutes ago on that jury. So he says, what size is it? Deontay said, not your size. Child, we tore up. And the judge was like, move it along. Like, come on, guys, move along. They did not finish today. They kept going. And I found this interesting. I made note, black man to black man. I noticed both times that they have used Xavier. So they've said that Xavier had the same demeanor, kind of combative. The other time was against one of the male hookers, the Punisher. So I find it interesting that both times they have Xavier come in and do cross, it was black man to black man. So Deontay is gay and black, just cute gay and black, just cute gay and black. And so is the Punisher. So I was curious about that. But don't get me wrong, Xavier has a lot of criminal experience. He's been doing this. Gosh, I think he graduated law school in like 96. So he's not brand new. But apparently, like, this doesn't seem to be flying well with the jurors. The jurors are getting frustrated. Some of the jurors were falling asleep. I was falling asleep my darn self. Because that back and forth, when it's just combative like that, you're like, I don't even want to it's almost like, just tell me when he gets to the point, because too often he set it up and then did not get to the point. And then they concluded by asking him about how he jumped on Diddy's back to protect Cassie. He was like, you jumped on Diddy's back to protect Cassie from her employer, correct? He's like, yes. And Mia jumped on Diddy's back to protect her against the employer, yes. And then he says, but you continue to work for Diddy. He was like, yes, I did. He was like, out of, fear of retaliation and stuff like that. But also, y'all, when this happened, Diddy's whole body turned at this point to Xavier. Almost, I feel like Diddy feels like he was expecting Xavier to see his body language and readjust and correct himself. Because prosecution was objecting. They were objecting, but it was almost like A lot of it, let him go because he's making a fool of himself. Like when I say I've never seen so much setup, no point at all, it made it difficult for the jury to follow. So you almost kind of don't want to disrupt that rhythm. If it's like a rhythm of nonsense, a rhythm that's making people sleepy. Now, if he's asking questions that are going to elicit negative testimony, that's another thing. Or elicit something that could be, excuse me, that could sway the jury or even like, recapture their attention. That's objectable. Of course you want to object, but I think they did good. Like in the afternoon, what they did with that. I need the prosecution though to stop calling redundant witnesses. I feel like each time you have a witness, I need them to give me some new facts. Now, with Deontay, it was significant. His new facts, he spoke to the fact that she didn't want to do the FOs, that she complained like she was pulled away to do it on her birthday, that he would blackmail her by threatening to send sex tapes to her mama and dad, also threatening to get both her parents fired from their jobs. And she thought they could do it because he had already, thank you so much for the super chat, Instant, because he had already sent them that letter and made them mortgage their house. So it's like, good Lord, there's so many different things. Thank you so much. Oh, here it is. Thank you so much, Instant. It says, big fan. If T pardons, it would make no sense. I don't know what that means. T would, yeah. He pardoned January 6ers. But I think the feds are not through with Diddy. Like, if they don't get him convicted here and they don't feel like they get him on a strong sentence, I think they're going to continue to delve into the alleged crimes. Especially, I think they're looking to try and prove that he unalived someone. So it's not going to be over. Same with, think of Harvey Weinstein. With Harvey Weinstein, he's got another trial coming up. They're not done with him. They are not done with him. It says, in a federal trial, is the jury allowed to consider closing arguments to make their decisions? I know some state trials don't allow. Yeah. So the closing is when they bring it together. Here for closing, they're going to need charts. They're going to need graphics. Actually, shake that. Great question. Thank you so much, Arbel. I wonder if that's Randy for the super chat and a great question. I'm going to keep it on the screen because I definitely want to answer it. So the answer is, yeah, the prosecution actually has already started making a chart that has like each witness and kind of like a summary of what they testified to or something to help jurors keep it straight. But I actually, I don't have this up for you on, I do. I actually did this for you guys, because I wanted to be able to explain. Here it is. I pulled up for you. It's something called jury instructions. Oh, of course, it's going to take forever. So one of the saving graces is, number one, in closing, they can make charts. They're going to make graphics. They're probably going to do usually it's like a PowerPoint that's going to walk them through all the offenses, what was or wasn't proved, and that kind of thing. But here's where I think they're going to win or lose it. That is really critical. And hold on one second. I want to make sure you can hear me. Hold on. Don't move. This is critical. No one else has been talking about this. I'm the first to talk about this aspect, which is the jury instructions. So, the jury instructions, and more specifically, excuse me. Oh, thank you. Excuse me. With the jury instructions, what's most important is it hand holds the jury. I wish that I had the jury instructions that I had. You know what? Let me see if I still have it from the Black China trial. Forgive me, y'all. I gotta take this. I gotta drink this water. I have my vitamins. But basically, here's how jury instructions work. It walks them through, like flowchart style, their decision. And it's very specific to every case. So, for example, with the charge of bribery, and I had it up on my damn chat GPT, but now I don't know where it's at. Here we go. Okay. For example, if it is with RICO, there's different elements, there's different crimes. What it's going to do, for example, for bribery, what it's going to say is, for bribery, it's going to say, to find that bribery is satisfied, you have to find out beyond a reasonable doubt that Diddy offered something of value, and then they could put in parentheses examples. Something of value, which could be a record deal, keeping your record deal, a job, not getting fired from your job. Like, they can get super specific like that, right? If you found that Diddy offered something of value, including but not limited to, and then they literally could say, offered them a job, offered to not, for bribery, it was offered cash, offered money, whatever. It's like that. Then the next question would be, if you found that he offered something of value, yes or no? Then if you say yes, the next question would be, did he offer it to a public official or a person with legal or security duties? Yes or no? If yes, goes to the next question, right? Because we know here it was the hotel staff. Then the next staff is going to say, when he offered it to the hotel staff, what did he do it with the intent to influence the hotel staff from releasing the tape? That specific. If you believe he did so, yes or no, then if you believe yes, you must find him guilty. Literally, it walks you so tight to where there's no other option. Now, I had that up on the other screen. I'm going to do some sample jury instructions later in this case to really show you how. Sorry, somebody said, please stop taking the lube. Oh my gosh. Okay, gotcha. The jury's instructions. Yeah, the jury's instructions are everything. And as one example is, I feel like in the Black China defamation lawsuit, that's part of how she lost her case. It's because they really are. There are yes or no below chart questions. And it's super, super specific. So what happens is there's general instructions. Then both sides, the prosecution is going to draft up what they want as instruction. The defense is going to have their own example of instructions, because they're going to want instructions that are going to lead to a no. Prosecution are going to want them that lead to a yes. And then the judge is going to rule on a version that combines the two. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Sorry. Yeah, that's my friend's paddle. I'm not an AKA. Someone was asking. No, my homegirl. All my girls are my sisters, whatever. But literally, that's how you have to do it for this. So that's why when people are like, how's the jury going to remember all that? In the end, it's going to be closing arguments are going to have graphics galore. It'll probably be a PowerPoint with charts that are going to have, these are the offenses, these are the witnesses. If I were to do it, I would have a chart that's got on the left side, like the RICO offenses, right? Bribery, arson, kidnapping, forced labor, traffic, whatever. On the left side. Then to the right, I would have photos of the people that testified and said a little bit about each. Photo, and maybe like a summary below. That way the jury could visualize, oh yeah, that's the person that told me forced labor, they had to work all the time, they would get beat, whatever it is like that. It says the statutes of the charges are very specific too, down to and or. Yes. So if you do it that way, that's why people are like, well, but it's a regular jury. What are they going to decide? That's true. But a good jury instruction literally ties their hands to where they have no other choice. Thank you so much, Tasha Journeys. They have no other choice but to rule yes here, no here, whatever like that. Let me know if that makes sense. It says Diddy's not walking. He's going to jail for something unless a juror in the second row, which is a lady, she says all the witnesses are lying. So that's also why it was so important for Diddy's team and the prosecution to get somebody that they felt could follow the law. And I said from the beginning that women on a jury are going to lean in favor of Diddy because women are more likely to believe that other women are lying about certain things. You would think that as a male, you want more males on your jury because that's what he's got 8 men, 4 women. But no, he actually, the more women, the more difficult to convince when it comes to SAs. That is just historically how that has worked. Someone has said regarding jury instructions, how it works is this plus this equals the crime. You take away any choice by you phrasing the question of bribery as, did Diddy offer something of value? Examples include cash. To a hotel worker. Yes. Did the hotel worker have some level of security or other responsibility? Yes or no? If yes, go to the question 4. If yes, you must find it. If you're here, basically, you must find guilty of bribery. That's literally how it works. So it literally was like, if you said yes here and you said yes here, maybe your only choice. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. If I can get the ones from the Black China case. Oh man, it was the Black China defamation. I saved it because I literally was like, I want to show this to my students. I felt like, what is it? Black China. Hold on. I saved it because I felt like it was such a good example, but it also helped to better helped to better explain why it was that the jury ultimately did not find in her favor. No, that's not the one. Hold on. What was it? Kardashians. Hold on. That was a Kardashian. We're gonna see this. Kardashians. Here we go. It was. They don't have it. What's her name? Angela White. That's what it is. Let me see if I can find it. Nope. All right, I'll look for it. And once I find it, I will do another episode where I show you guys what a good like jury instruction. Because when I saw that in her case, I was like, and that was when Black China sued the Kardashians for defamation. When I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, she ain't gonna win this case. Because it really it gives the jury no other choice. Just similarly in the Jonathan Majors case, that jury felt like they had no other choice based on the instructions given to find as they did. Same as George Zimmerman, that case too. It's all of that. Okay, let me see. Oh, here's an example. Hold on. I think I got it. Oh, no, that ain't it. That's okay. Yeah, that's not it. That's from a different case. I'm putting that on the screen. But my point is, yeah, the jury instructions, I'll go over that again but in the future. But jury instructions are what really walk through it. All right, let me see if I can answer a few and talked about his brother too. I'm going to answer a few questions for you guys. Let me see. We got a lot of starred ones. I want to make sure y'all had some really good ones. Oh, please address the above comment regarding Maureen Comey. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Instran. Let me see. You said something about big fan if Trump pardons, it wouldn't make any sense. Let me see the Maureen Comey. Let me see. I don't see that one. If it was in the chat, yeah, and it needs to be brought back up. I'm sorry. I think Maureen Comey is doing a great job. She's leading well. She's all of those things. But here's the thing. She grew up Maureen Comey. Her dad was always successful, always popular, always powerful, and always made a lot of money. You need some poor people on that prosecution team. You need some people who got out of the mud. You need some people, at least if they're not going to be the deli workers and, you know, the warehouse workers, you need someone who grew up in a community around them. Maybe that's their brother, maybe that's their sister, because we know how to communicate with those people. And it just seems like the prosecution team is very privileged. And my issue in law school, when I would be in study groups and stuff with my, you know, some of the very privileged students, is that they can only look at the law. And they look at the law very literally, and they can't see how, at the end of the day, jurors and humans want to be reasonable. And while the law may say one thing, if the result feels unreasonable to a juror, they're going to find a way to get around that result. Specifically here, you got to keep in mind, the jury does not know. The jury does not know that he is facing life. Was who trying to flirt a little bit? Yeah, the jury is not allowed to know that Diddy is facing up to life at all because they said it's irrelevant. Like under the law, it is irrelevant. Let me know if you knew that in the chat, that at this point throughout the entire trial, the jury is not allowed to ever find out that he is facing life. For example, the defense is not allowed to elicit that. Like they couldn't put Justin on the stand and be like, why are you so upset about this? Because my dad's facing life. Can't do that because it's irrelevant. The concern is that it's actually more prejudicial because the concern is a jury may feel that all the elements of a crime have been proven, but that the sentence doesn't fit. So they're going to go with a not guilty because they don't like the time sentence options as opposed to following the law. They're not, no, it says, can they look up the charges? No, they may not. They're not allowed to look up anything because the court and the parties are going to give them in court all it is that they're supposed to look at. The judge is going to give them, let me know in the chat if you didn't know that. Give me a like, give me a subscribe too. And as well, as someone who criminally, I've done defense work. I've always felt that that was unfair. I always felt that a jury should know, like, hey, if you find them guilty of this BS charge here, they could be facing 20 years or whatever it's going to be. That's not the case here. The only way they would know is perhaps if they themselves have a loved one or relative or whatever. But even then, it's different because the amount of time you face depends on your charges. The other reason it's considered irrelevant is because in the end, yeah, he might be facing life, but the sentence is solely up to the judge. In federal court, see, I'm in Texas. In Texas, our juries also determine how much time you get. Not in federal court. It is solely the decision of a judge. So that's why when people say, well, how much time do you think he's going to get? I think he's going to be found guilty of the prostitution. I don't see any way around that prostitution, and that's up to 10 years. So in the event he's found guilty of both RICO and S trafficking, which again, legally, I don't see how he could be found guilty of the RICO when RICO only has to prove two things. And if they prove S trafficking, they've already done that. They've already proven bribery. So that's 2. If he's only found guilty, let's say, of the prostitution, which is 10 years, the judge can choose to give him all 10 years based on the fact that the judge may have felt like, look, with all this evidence, it shows you were rogue, it shows you were powerful, it shows you're dangerous. And part of the reason the prosecution keeps putting in what seems like repetitive DV testimony is because they want to reiterate to the jury just how dangerous this man is, and that if you let him out, he is going to be blackmailing people again. He's going to be trying to unalive people. He's going to be forcing people to go into abandoned buildings to take lie detectors or worse, that it's going to embolden him to be even worse. So the repetition is to put fear in the judge or the jury at sentencing to strike the book, to give the book to him. It says, do I feel like the jurors will actually abide by the rules, like not watching the news? Probably not. I mean, it's New York. It's really, really hard. It's like you basically need to take off all social media from your app. How do you go on social media and not see about this case? Like, they're supposed to not go on there. I don't know if that's going to happen. It says, thanks for breaking down juror judge instructions. Never knew it was a thing until now. Thanks, Tasha. I'm so glad that helped. I'll do a bigger segment on it. Thank you for your commentary each day. I appreciate your input. Love from New Orleans. Thank you so much, Lauren. As well, Arbel, in a Fed trial, is the jury allowed to consider closing arguments? Okay, we did address that. Yeah. The closing arguments are a summary. Also, note, closing arguments are never allowed to introduce new evidence. Closing arguments are only allowed to summarize what has already been presented. So you'll see objections in closing if one side feels like a statement or something that was made was not evidence that was produced. Oh, significantly here, the defense tried to get the judge to strike Kid Cudi's testimony, where at the end of meeting with Diddy at Soho House, he testified that he asked Diddy, so man, what about my car? Diddy looked at him and said, I don't know nothing about your car. So then prosecution asked Cudi, did you believe Diddy? And he said, no, he was lying. That's what they wanted struck from the jury and take away from any jury consideration. Today, it was a big win for the prosecution. The judge said, no, he's not striking it. So that got to stay in. But a lot of other stuff was removed. So who else is supposed to testify? So I did have that. I had that listed. That. So who else is supposed to testify is actually, so tomorrow is, gosh, it's the girl. What's her name again? It's Mia, the alias Mia. I believe KK is supposed to. KK is Karamian. Christina Karamian. I absolutely see her testifying simply due to the fact that if you remember in the Little Rod case, Little Rod offered her to be dismissed from the case in exchange for signing an affidavit. She signed that affidavit so fast and got the hell out of there. In addition, she quit being chief of staff to Diddy shortly after all the Cassie stuff came out. That lady is out of there. And I believe she'll want to testify to redeem herself because no brand will hire KK. No brand wants to touch her after being affiliated with allowing the abuse and all that stuff. So the one way she has to redeem herself would be if she gets on that stage, tells the truth, and sits up there and makes herself a victim. She effectively has to be a victim of the RICO herself, a victim of the system. What would an affidavit that KK signed generally say? Oh, it said that she didn't know anything pertaining to Little Rod's case involving like the corporate entities. And therefore they dismissed the proper corporate entities as a result of her saying it was something related to that. It was procedural. It was absolutely procedural. Oh, okay. Let me see. You're saying my theories on Trump pardons don't make sense. For example, the prosecutor here is Maureen Comey, daughter of FBI Director Comey, who Trump hates. Trump would fire Maureen, right? He would fire her if he hated her. Oh, okay. That's a good point. You're saying if Trump really wanted Diddy to walk, that he would then fire Maureen. No. See, because if you compare it to Eric Adams' situation, Trump wanted Eric Adams to walk. So he instructed that be done. And certain people who were unwilling to do it, they resigned. In this instance, I don't believe. So with Trump could care less whether Diddy stays in jail, leaves. What Trump likes is for his butt to be kissed. So if Diddy and Diddy's team and Diddy hires and pays people to kiss Trump's butt enough, this actually is going to go in favor of a pardon, due to the fact that because Trump hates her daddy, Trump is not smart. He's dumb. So he's going to think that by making her go through this whole rigmarole with a trial, spending $25 million, all of this stuff, by him pardoning would be another example of how he is more powerful than the Comeys, in the same way that he fired Comey himself. That had never been done before. He fired Comey himself. So I actually think it would be the other. I see what you're saying, which is that if he was going to do it, he would have already done it. My point is, I've said this before with the pardon, Trump is going to let the whole trial go through with this type of accusation because of the video. Because of Cassie's video, he has to let this go through a trial. Trump could not dismiss this prior to a trial with that video out there. Oh my gosh, those conservative, Caucasian, dog walking, yoga loving, Christian Bible thumping women out there who, see Cassie as relatable to them, they would have a fit. He has to at least let the trial, and that was an excellent question, let the trial proceed such that enough can come out where he can call it a witch hunt and he can use that as an excuse. Yeah, he only pardons scammers and frauds. And I think, yeah, he pardons people that he pardons in situations that will piss off the left. That will piss off the left. The left will be completely pissed off. The right won't care about Diddy. That's a black people problem. It said Trump might pardon him in 2028. He could also wait till the end. So, for example, I don't know, Trump took office in January, but he just pardoned the Grizzlies who've been there for a while. Hit that like, y'all, and hit the subscribe. So he could have done a lot more. How many witnesses are left after Mia? So this is an important part. The prosecution said they're moving quickly and that they actually think they're going to wrap up sooner, that they believe that they are going to conclude the second week of June. That would mean a whole week early. So that would mean that after this week, there would be only 2 weeks left of the prosecution's testimony. And that after that, the defense would be putting on theirs. Here's the thing. I'm going to say with the prosecution, they better not rest. They better not rest without calling at least one security guard. I think they need to start with Roger Bonds, but they also probably need to find D-Rock and consider bringing him up there, having him testify. It would need to be under immunity. And because if they give them immunity, they have to tell it all. And if they get up there and lie on the stand, it rips up their immunity agreement, and they could thereafter be tried as a co-conspirator. So after Mia is going to be KK. It's supposed to be I don't know if Gina's going to come, but Gina. I also believe victim 2 is Daphne Joy, 50 Cent's baby mom. So Daphne Joy is supposed to testify as well. Now, the reason I think it's Daphne Joy is that indictment says they started the relationship around like 2021, something along those lines. And that is when Daphne began dating Diddy Also, Diddy loves going after the women of his arch nemesis. At the time he started going after Daphne Joy, she was already 50 Cent's baby's mama. There's nothing more powerful to men like him than being able to sleep with and control your arch nemesis baby mother. Baby mother, okay? So I believe that Daphne Joy, is V2. And if she is V2, she's absolutely going to testify on the prosecution side. Here's why I think so. Because 50 Cent is trying to get primary custody of this child. This child is a large part of the income that she received, Daphne Joy. And I'm sure she loves her child, loves being a mom, all of those things, right? If Daphne Joy does not cooperate with the prosecution and appear as a victim of Diddy's behavior, then 50 very likely would be able to go to court and be like, hey, this is one of Diddy's S workers. She's foul. She's not, it's not in the best interest of our child for our child to be around a woman like that, who's around drugs, who's around all of these other things. Your Honor, give me primary custody. I'll let her see the kid every other weekend. 50 would do that. 50 would do that in a second. He would do that in a moment. So, but by her being victim number 2, she becomes a what? Victim. So then all of the things that she did that Diddy has proof of she's now going to be able to have a victim narrative as opposed to an unfit mom or an inappropriate woman. Furthermore, Diddy loves to take blackmail videos and photos of people while being intimate. I believe that Diddy absolutely would have had her likely do freak offs too, or other nasty, freaky stuff. I don't know, get peed on, whatever. Videotape it and then threaten to release it to her baby daddy. Because if 50 Cent had that video, 50 Cent would absolutely make sure it got released or still shot or whatever. So hit that like, y'all. We have over 1,700 in the chat. We've got less than 800 likes. So 50 did have on a free Diddy shirt. Totally trolling. Their fight goes way back. It goes back to when Diddy and 50 both had the same manager, Chris Lighty, and basically Diddy tried to get people to not work with 50 Cent, among other things. So in the end, y'all let me know your thoughts. Who do you think victim number 2 is? My guess is Daphne Joy. And if it is, y'all, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so tied to that. If it's Daphne Joy, I would not be surprised if 50 Cent hops on a plane and goes sit in the overflow courtroom with the rest of us in the press just to sit in there and troll his baby mama. He would do that. It says, is Daphne Joy the reason 50 and Diddy don't like when? No. Daphne Joy is newer. 50 and Diddy didn't like each other back from around 08, 2010, that time frame. And it was because Diddy was basically trying to blackball him. He was trying to prevent people from working with him. Some of it was ego, some of it was other stuff. Who decides what criteria? Why aren't any of the celebrities testifying like Usher and Bieber? They don't want to. The people that are testifying so far, they're all saying they absolutely did not want to be there. They don't want to be pulled into that. And the thing is, nobody wants to, if Puff beats this, they don't want to be on his bad side. Nobody wants to get blackballed. Thank you so much, Maya, for the compliment. It says, so no, Diddy had beef. So 50 and Diddy had beef way before Daphne. Yes, that's why I'm saying I believe Diddy set his sights on Daphne. And Daphne didn't have the good sense enough to know, girl, he don't like you. He likes embarrassing 50. He likes trolling 50. He likes making 50's life and career more difficult. You'd have to have, Daphne Joy must have the biggest ego in the world to really think that Diddy, just out of the kindness of his heart, picked her out of all the women in the world to date, out of all the baby mamas of rappers. Give me a break. Will the defense call any witnesses? Yeah, they got to wait their turn. So the prosecution calls all of theirs first. And they initially said they wanted 5 weeks to 6 weeks. Now they're saying they only need 5. And then when they what's called rest their case, then the defense gets to start. And they get to call their own experts. That's why they don't supply controverting experts. They're probably, for example, going to have their own DV expert that's going to say, no, this wasn't DV. Cassie did these things because she was a freak leak. Hit that like, yes, hit that like, Sky, and hit that subscribe as button. It said Trump will pardon Diddy. Justin said he wasn't a victim of Diddy. Justin said I don't know what Justin is. Might be his son. They were allegedly in crimes together as well. Could be. And it says if DJ Khaled or French, they were mentioning French Montana today, or Jay-Z knew about Diddy's crimes, is it a crime for them to keep it silent? No, not in most states. You don't have, some states have a rule that says you must report a felony, but not in most states. No. So, oh yeah. Can the people inside the courtroom see the people in the overflow? No, you can't. There's no. Overflow is just separate. All it would take is testimony from Bieber being groomed. Oh, that'd be over. Yeah. What about Lauren London as MIA? The only reason I don't think she's MIA, Mia, is because Mia is someone that worked for Diddy. I don't know that Lauren London. Well, no, wait a minute. She did work for Diddy, but she worked as a Sean John model. So I don't know that like this seemed like it was someone who worked with him in his executive capacity. However, Starry Strut, it would not surprise me if it was her, simply because she's such a beautiful girl. I was thinking about it in court today. I'm like, I'm surprised he didn't try to holler at Lauren London because he's so powerful and so forth. Oh, you know what? But that may have been, depending on the time frame, it might have been out of respect for Lil Wayne. Because remember, she has a child with Lil Wayne. So it depends on the time frame. But yeah, 50 talked about Daphne Joy and 50 talks about his disdain for Diddy and vice versa way before Daphne. Yep. All right, guys. So hit that like. Let me know what questions you have down below. I will be in the courtroom again tomorrow. I want to hear what Miss Mia has to say, and then I miss you guys. So Friday, I will probably be back to covering it live. I really enjoy engaging. So be in the chat, set your alerts, set your notifications, and we'll spend Friday. We're going to spend that whole day together going through the testimony, and I do have access to the transcripts now, so we've got that. Thanks again. I'm your legal bestie. Feel free. Ooh, let me pull this down. Feel free to hit that Cash App, guys. MISS Redwine. I appreciate you so much. And go to SymoneRedwine.com if you would like to book. I also want to just thank those that have sent Cash Apps in the past. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hold on. Oh gosh, I need to tell you guys thank you. Felicia Relford, thank you so much. Ann Hill, Sky, you're super sweet. Denise Nicholson, Latifa Mickey, Katrina Hammond, Analytical One, Sky again, thank you. Nicholas Morgan for the Cash App, Annette T. Thank you guys again. Y'all take care and have a great night.